Welcome, everyone, to the number one Raiders podcast in the world. My name is Steven Michaels. This is the Raiders Daily Podcast. Here we are. The Raiders pull off a Thanksgiving miracle as they beat the Dallas Cowboys 36-33. Remember, last time I think I did a public show, I don't think I recapped what happened the week prior, but what happened the week prior was the Raiders played like garbage again and lost against the Bengals and lost almost all hope for the playoffs due to tiebreakers. Now they beat Dallas. They're right back into it. They're going to need a little bit of help. As long as they win, I think good things will happen. Can this team continue to win will be the biggest question. Now let's talk about this Dallas miracle. It was a Raiders miracle in Dallas. The Raiders went out there and they beat the living crap out of the Cowboys. The score should have never been this close. Let's all face it. The Raiders dominated from the first quarter to the fourth quarter. The Raiders are more physical than Dallas. And Jerry Jones, of course, is going to cry about it after the game, which he did because, of course, the Dallas Cowboys were holding and grabbing and throwing the wide receivers on the ground because their secondary simply could not keep up with the speed of the Las Vegas Raiders. Deshaun Jackson, 3 catches, 102 yards, 1 for a big, long touchdown. If this guy can do that every week, this team will be right back on track on offense. Now, during the game, Darren Waller gets injured. Now, that's really bad, but in my opinion, this Raiders offense, I don't know what it is, but when you take Darren Waller out of the game, Derek Carr becomes a better quarterback. He starts spreading the ball around to different wide receivers. All of a sudden, Hunter Renfrow has 8 catches, 134 yards. Deshaun Jackson goes over 100 yards. Zay Jones is involved. He gets 5 catches. All these guys are getting involved. And when you have a little bit of a run game, Josh Jacobs had 87 yards, I should say. He had 22 carries. That also helps out the offense. Now, there's one thing I do not like, and I think it's very bizarre. I don't know why Kenyon Drake is not getting more carries. Because it seems like every time the guy does, get an opportunity, the Raiders look really good. They got to put him out there more. And I like Foster Monroe, and I just think ever since John Gruden left, the Raiders don't do enough of 2 tight end sets. And Foster Monroe, I think, is a really good receiving tight end if you give him that chance. And he showed that. If you remember that game, I believe it was against the Philadelphia Eagles, where Foster Monroe just completely trampled him. You got to use him more. And it seems like once Darren Waller got injured in this game, by the way, Darren Waller will be okay. Darren Waller's x-rays are negative, his MRIs are negative. He's going to be fine, so he'll be probably playing against Washington, which, like I said, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Darren Waller is still an awesome tight end. It's just for some reason, when he's on the field, Derek Carr only locks into him. When you take him away, it's like, hey, look at all these other toys I got. But when he's in there, it's like Derek Carr's only locked in Darren Waller. It's really weird. It's strange and it's weird. But if he could use Darren Waller and also use Hunter Renfrow, also use Zay Jones, also use Deshaun Jackson, and use Foster Monroe, use them all, the Raiders offense would be unbelievable. But the problem is, Derek Carr has to be consistent week after week. And so far, through his 8 years, he has not proven that. Now, I know everyone's happy. I'm happy. The Raiders beat the Cowboys in overtime, 36-33. It was fantastic. But Derek Carr was just coming off a 3-game losing streak. Now, it's time this guy goes on a winning streak because each and every year, for the last 3 years, we have seen this collapse in November. It starts in October, and then boom, November it's over. So maybe this win will propel the Raiders to start stacking up wins, and just maybe Derek Carr can finally play in a playoff game because the guy has yet to play one in 8 years. 8 years. So it all starts now. The Raiders, by the way, they go into this Dallas game. Nobody in the world gave the Raiders a shot here. All the money was on Dallas. And rightfully so, right? the Raiders get trashed against the Bengals. Before that, they get destroyed by the Chiefs. And then, before that, they lose against the New York Giants. That's embarrassing. Derek Carr's throwing interceptions everywhere. He's being Derek Carr in the second halves of seasons, right? Then this game comes. Now, the question will be, now this game was like our Super Bowl, right? I mean, primetime game, 36 million people watching the Raiders kick the living shit out of the Dallas Cowboys. It was fantastic. But can this continue? That will be the question. But for now, we are just going to enjoy this one because 36 million people watch your Las Vegas Raiders destroy the Dallas Cowboys. And I know you're going to say, well, it went to overtime. They didn't really destroy them. But we all know, if you watch the game, the Cowboys really should never been really that close into it, really. They really shouldn't have. I mean, the Raiders are up 14-0, or 14-6, sorry, in the first quarter. And in the second quarter, the Raiders should have scored. Instead, they settled for 3. The settling for 3 in the red zone really hurts the Raiders. Imagine if all those field goals were touchdowns. And that's what I mean by the score. I mean, the Raiders, if they were just convert these in the red zone, if they would get better in the red zone on offense, they would be blowing these teams out. They wouldn't even be close, these games. It would be over by the halftime. If they could just score in the red zone, score touchdowns instead of kicking field goals. Because you just can't keep kicking field goals over and over again. But this was a fun game. We got to see Marcus Mariota run for a touchdown. Where's this guy been? Use him more. Use him more in the red zone. Marcus Mariota should be in every red zone package. You have a guy on the bench over there that can pretty much do everything. He can run the ball and he can throw the ball. Use him in the red zone. I don't get the whole logic of it. But they used him in this game, and it paid off. Marcus Mariota with a touchdown. Derek Carr then says, oh man, Marcus Mariota running like that, I got to do one of my own. And he does. Derek Carr runs for 22 yards. I mean, that was fantastic, by the way. I wish Derek Carr would do that every week. That would even be better. Imagine that. But, I mean, it shows. I know the whole Henry Ruggs thing was terrible, but, I mean, I've been saying since you have Deshaun Jackson, this guy clearly has the speed. He hasn't lost a step. I mean, obviously he's not going to be as fast as he was when he came to the NFL, but he's still really, really fast. And you have Zay Jones. So you have that speed to make up for Henry Ruggs. You do. But for some reason, this team just couldn't put it together. Maybe it was a mental problem. It was all mental. Hopefully it was. And now, mentally, they're free. Now they can go out and dominate. Because they got to start stacking up wins. They got to start winning more games here. The Raiders are right there in the playoff race. And if we want them to go to the playoffs, the Raiders are going to have to start stacking up some victories. And also, of course, you want the Bengals to lose games. You want the Chargers definitely to lose games. And you want the Colts to lose games. That's what you really, really want. But as long as the Raiders keep on winning, I think everything will be okay. Up next, they got Washington. Jack Del Rio versus Derek Carr. Now, remember Derek Carr. Jack Del Rio talks some shit about you. He's your former head coach. You gonna let him just have his defense swallow you up in Vegas? Or are you gonna embarrass Jack Del Rio in Vegas? Embarrass him and beat him by 40 points. That's what you should do. If you're a true leader and you want to dominate this guy who's talked so much trash, then you should dominate Washington. Then from there, it sets up the big game, guys. The Raiders versus the Chiefs and Arrowhead, where Derek Carr's only won once. And that was during when there was really no fans around. Can he do it two times in a row? Can he do it? It's going to be a big game. It will be a big game. But even if they don't win that game, as long as the Raiders beat the Browns, They beat the Broncos, they beat the Colts, and that last game against the Chargers, that's going to be huge. They got to win that game. They could lose to Washington and lose against Kansas City. As long as they win the last 4, they're going to make the playoffs. Because I don't see, the Bengals running the table. I don't see that happening. But you know what? I don't want to rely on other teams. This Raiders team, as I've been saying for all season long, is too talented to lose. They just went up against a Dallas team where nobody thought the Raiders would win. No one thought the Raiders could keep up with Dallas. Now, yes, the Raiders secondary is trash. We all know that. Anyone could throw off them, right? Now, anyone used to be able to run off them. But the Cowboys are that stupid, they really didn't commit to the run, which is a good thing. It's a very good thing. They only ran the ball 20 times in total, by the way. Really only 19. They pretty much ran the ball 19 times. And, it's weird because everyone knows the Raiders' defense sucks at stopping the run. But when you don't commit to the run, that's fantastic. That is just like fantastic. If you're watching the game and rooting for the Raiders, when the other team decides, we're not going to run, we're going to throw because their secondaries suck so much. That's when our front 4, Yannick Ngakoue and Max Crosby, they get after your ass and you make mistakes. And you go 3 and out and you give it back to our offense. And if our offense is on fire and on target and Derek Carr is playing good, then we are going to slice and dice you. We are going to destroy you. That is the Raiders' attitude. That is the way they play. So, it happened with the Steelers, if you remember. They didn't want to run the ball for some weird reason. And look what happened. The Raiders took advantage of it, and they won the game. The Ravens, same thing. They didn't really have any running backs, but they didn't really commit to the run. A lot of these teams who don't commit to the run against the Raiders win. And it's weird the Cowboys don't commit to the run. They have Zeke Elliott over there. And I think the guy only had 9 carries or something like that. But it didn't matter. This game came down to Derek Carr playing amazingly awesome. After 3 games of sucking, this guy comes alive. Now, I'm getting bored of him not being consistent. He plays awesome 1 week, then he sucks for 3. Well, now, it's at the end of November. Now it's time Derek Carr remains consistent and winning. Now it's time that Derek Carr does not collapse. The collapse is over. Now it's time to start stacking up some wins. If you want to be the franchise quarterback, you got to play like that, like you did on Thanksgiving every single Sunday for the rest of the season. If the Raiders can do that, they're going to the playoffs. And once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. Once you're in the playoffs, you can go to the Super Bowl. Get the Super Bowl train going. But first, we got to take care of Washington. The Raiders need to beat Washington. But right now, we'll talk about Washington later. Go celebrate. Go have fun. The Raiders, they made a big statement on Thanksgiving. They showed the world they're still alive. Will they remain alive is the question. But for now, the Cowboys are whining. They're throwing punches at the Raiders after the game. These guys are crybabies. Literally, they're throwing punches. This guy's throwing a punch at Josh Simpson after the game. Jerry Jones is crying about the refs. What a bunch of crybabies. The Raiders walked into Jerry's world, whooped your ass, and now you're sad. That's what happened. Long story short, Raiders win. 36-33. Go cry, Jerry Jones. Everything will be okay. You have a shitty division. The Raiders are still trying to make it. And you play in this division where everyone sucks. Alright? So, stop whining about it. The Raiders own your ass. That's the only thing that happened. Only thing that happened. And all the flags, by the way. The Raiders got, flagged too. It's not like Jerry Jones is whining about penalties when the Raiders got just as many. It's just your team commits big ones. And thank you for doing that. because the Raiders win. Daniel Carlson kicks the game-winning field goal in overtime, 36-33. All right, guys, I will talk to you next week as we get ready for Washington. We'll see if the Raiders can beat Jack Del Rio. I think they can. My name is Stephen Michaels. This is the Raiders Daily Podcast.